Well, Nationals MPs are pushing for more coal-fired power stations in a move that threatens to reignite climate tensions within the coalition. Members of the Nationals backbench are unveiling a manufacturing blueprint with the goal of creating 800,000 jobs in the next 15 years and the construction of a new coal plant in the New South Wales Hunter Valley. For more on this, I'm joined by a journalist at the Australian newspaper, Richard Ferguson. Richard, good to see you. You've written about this today. There's nothing more Australian, though, probably, than a good old Barney about climate policy. This call for the construction of coal-fired power stations seems pretty at odds with the direction our major ally in the US is heading in, with plans to reduce emissions under Joe Biden.
Absolutely. Well, Ashley, the Prime Minister told our Greg Brown in the Weekend Australian that the climate wars were essentially over and that, we were all on the path towards net zero emissions, perhaps not by 2050, but at some point. Well, it appears that some Nationals MPs are not on board with that. Of course, this policy document on expanding manufacturing from the Nationals Backbench Policy Committee, led by the former Resources Minister Matthew Canavan, of course, has in it this coal-fired power station. Now, a coal-fired power station may be very popular in North Queensland. How popular is it in the leafy suburbs of seats like Wentworth, Higgins, these sort of seats that have been targeted by independents in recent years and by the Labour Party and the Greens, that are held by the Liberal Party? So this is where the problem's going to be, is where you're going to once again start the year with this tension between Nationals MPs in the regions, especially in those mining areas, and then the leafy suburbs that are becoming a bit more environmentally friendly by the day.
We mentioned in the introduction this is the Nationals backbench manufacturing plan that we're discussing. What do the Nationals leadership team make of it? Do we know?
Well, I think that will be one interesting thing to see, and it will be interesting to see what some of the tensions are within the National Party throughout the next coming year. Of course, this time last year, the Nationals Party were in the middle of a leadership spill. Things have quietened down a lot since then, but there are still very much tensions between people in the party who feel that Michael McCormack is not doing enough to push key national agendas, including on coal.
The Glasgow conference is the next big climate policy event. What are the expectations there as to what sort of commitments Australia could be making at that conference, and how does an idea like this feed into that?
Well, the Prime Minister's seems to have made it clear that he's not planning to make any changes to either the 2030 or 2035 climate targets before he reaches Glasgow, but he is under so much pressure from Joe Biden, from Boris Johnson, from European leaders like Emmanuel Macron and probably whoever replaces Angela Merkel just before November. So he will be under a lot of pressure to show more on climate change. Now, of course, he is starting to try and make some of that movement through this joint working group on low emissions technology that John Kerry, who's now Biden's climate czar, of course, the former Secretary of State, former Democratic nominee for President 2004, that John Kerry has made with Angus Taylor. So it'll be very interesting to see what that joint working group looks like and what the US and Australia can start off with on the climate conversation around technology, which the Prime Minister is very pro. Obviously, his whole climate strategy is about technology rather than taxation, and it may allow a bit of a springboard for any more difficult conversations with the Biden administration down the track.
Richard Ferguson, I have a feeling we'll be talking about this again in the coming months as we do edge closer to that. Appreciate you joining us with the details of your report. Thanks so much.